Before we get started, a quick heads up. Presidents Unplugged now has merch. If you want to support the show and represent the podcast in your daily life, you can at presidentsunpluggedmerch.com. That is presidentsunpluggedmerch.com. Now, let's get into today's episode. Imagine you're the Vice President of the United States, but only a month after being elected, you hear some scary news. The president has died of pneumonia. You are now the president. Today, we're talking about the 10th president of the United States, one who had a life full of drama, contradictions, and moments that are honestly just wild. This is the story of John Tyler. Let's do this. Born in 1790 in Virginia, John Tyler grew up wanting to follow in his father's footsteps, like a lot of presidents in United States history. His dad was a lawyer, and he wanted to make his very successful family proud. So early on, he developed a strong sense of personal ambition. He knew he wanted to do something great. This greatness began after he went to the College of William and Mary, where he studied to be a lawyer. Once a lawyer, Tyler slowly became a U.S. representative and eventually a U.S. senator. It seems like this guy's life just can't get any better. Oh, it can. When in 1840, the Whig Party, who was created in opposition to Jacksonian policies around the time of Andrew Jackson's presidency, which Jacksonian policies were not just in Andrew Jackson's presidency. They also leaked over into Martin Van Buren's presidency, who was running as an incumbent. So the battle was set. William Henry Harrison versus Martin Van Buren. Okay, it's going to be close. What if we run a really good campaign? And they did. The Whig campaign slogan in 1840 was Tippecanoe and Tyler too. We know about Tyler, but who in the world is Tippecanoe? William Henry Harrison was a war hero in the Battle of Tippecanoe, which would eventually lead into what we know now as the War of 1812. So the slogan, Tippecanoe and Tyler too, became the first ever successful campaign slogan. Nowadays, we know other slogans throughout history like, Get on the Raft with Taft, or I like Ike. These slogans that have been created, starting with this election, have shifted the perspective of the people through just a simple phrase. But, okay, they won the presidency. Gosh, William Henry Harrison is just going to have a great 4, maybe even 8 years. John Tyler thought the same thing. After William Henry Harrison won, he just decided, woohoo, I'm vice president, let's go. I'm going to go rest in Virginia for the next month. Now, any of my recurring viewers might realize why relaxing in Virginia for a month during William Henry Harrison's presidency might not be so smart. Because William Henry Harrison died only a month into his term. He passed away on April 4th, 1841. Yikes. John Tyler, the man who was in Virginia, pretty much not affiliated with Harrison's presidency at all before he died, was going to have to come to D.C. and just automatically become president, right? Because we know that the vice president becomes the president if they die. Wait. This is the first time in history a president has died and needed to be replaced by somebody. Is it the vice president? Is it the Secretary of War? This isn't stated anywhere. Now, while in John Tyler's case, he pretty much said, okay, y'all, I'm the president now, the actual decision and the actual written piece to state that the vice president becomes the president was not signed until the 25th Amendment in 1967. Even though it might seem like this amendment was passed 125 years too late, this amendment was passed to guarantee a smooth transition of power for the future in case another event like a William Henry Harrison would happen in the country. So now let's talk about Tyler's wife. Even though I really want to call her Letitia, I think it's Letitia. Tyler's first wife, Letitia, had borne him 8 children. And back in the day, you didn't have good doctors to help you with the 8 children. So Letitia was not in good health at all. So often she was too sick to even fulfill the normal duties of the First Lady. So at the time, Tyler's niece stepped in as the, quote, acting hostess of the White House, and she organized social events and kept the social side of Washington running smoothly while Letitia recovered. But her recovery was not good. After Letitia passed away, Tyler kept having these parties. His niece kept the ball moving, even if Tyler was pretty unstable. But let's just say that Tyler knows a lot about quick turnovers, because Tyler, at one of these parties, met Julia Gardner, a young woman from New York who was 30 years younger than him. Now, okay, age difference does not mean anything, okay, but Julia Gardner was about the same age as John Tyler's own children. Their relationship quickly developed despite that significant age difference, and they considered themselves courting. Tyler also had 7 children with Julia. And if I passed my 2nd grade math class, I think I can tell you that means he had 15 children, the most in presidential history. Most of them he actually had later in his life, especially with Julia. And one of Tyler's children, Leon Tyler, had a son, that means it's Tyler's grandson, who lived to 96, passing away in 2025. Do you realize how crazy that is? A man born in 1790 had a grandson live until last year. Incredible. But you want to know some more drama? Okay. William Henry Harrison's entire cabinet left because they were kind of sick of Tyler. Why were they sick of Tyler? Because Henry Clay, the quote leader of the Whig Party, was making some decisions that Tyler was denying, wasn't agreeing with. Did we not elect you as a Whig? You're done. They sent John Tyler out of the Whig Party, meaning for the majority of his presidency, he didn't even have a party affiliation. So Tyler, with his new cronies that he brought into his new cabinet, decided to have a little party. I mean, nothing can go wrong if you have a party on a battleship. Okay, let's talk about the USS Princeton party, as I like to call it. Tyler hosted a party on a ship with members of this newly formed cabinet, celebrating the latest advancements in naval technology. Woohoo, look what we have. We have a cannon. This cannon on the ship they were having a party on was called the Peacemaker. And I'm not talking about Ronald Reagan. I'm talking about a cannon. So, John Tyler's cabinet was all at the top of the ship, and they were like, let's fire this cannon. Why not? So after the approval of the captain, they do just that. Boom, splash, woohoo, everyone cheers. That was so cool. They shoot it off again. Boom, splash. Man, this is like a movie, even though movies didn't exist back then. Let's shoot it a third time. Little would they know that is the last time that cannon would ever be fired. Once firing the third blast, the cannon exploded right on top of the ship. This shrapnel killed 6 people. And now, I'm not saying if it killed 6 random people that wouldn't matter. But no, this shrapnel killed John Tyler's brand spanking new Secretary of State, Secretary of the Navy, and a man named David Gardiner. I've heard that name somewhere. We'll get to it later. Where was Tyler? Why wasn't John Tyler on this boat when it exploded? Well, rumor has it that John Tyler was in another room flirting with Julia Gardiner. Gardner, I know where these names are now. David Gardner was Julia's dad. We weren't even halfway through John Tyler's presidency, and we had already seen 2 major tragedies, whether that was the past president being the first ever to die in office, or a cannon explosion killing 2 members of your brand new cabinet. It was not looking good for him. So that makes us ask the question, did John Tyler turn the page and end up having a good presidency? Or would he let these tragedies, both not really led by his decision, define his legacy as chief executive? Abraham Lincoln was 6'4". Franklin Delano Roosevelt served as president for more than 4,000 days. Those are facts. But here's another fact. The fact that Presidents Unplugged has an Instagram page. If you want updates on the show and announcements about what's coming next, follow us at Presidents_Unplugged. That is Presidents_Unplugged. I'll see you there. John Tyler's actual presidency when it comes to legislation is remembered more for political drama than anything. When I'm researching for this episode, and one of the titles of my documentaries is The Most Hated Man of the 19th Century, yikes, John Tyler. This controversy can easily be seen when I talk about John Tyler's greatest achievement as president. That was full of backlash when John Tyler decided to annex Texas. Annex is our word of the day. A-N-N-E-X. Annex means to add, attach, or incorporate something, such as land, to a larger, more important entity, often without permission. Did you hear that last part? Often without permission. John Tyler had somewhat of an idea in his mind that if we decided to annex Texas, we might get into a war with Mexico. But hey, by that time, I won't be president, so it's not my problem. Man, John Tyler is starting to sound like James Buchanan in the Civil War, and that is not a compliment. But let me give a little bit of a backstory because drama has been 80% of this episode, so let me give you a little civics lesson when it comes to the annexation of Texas. John Tyler made an under-the-counter deal with certain political individuals when it came to Texas. This deal said that when we annex Texas, it would become a slave state. Not a free state, a slave state. Now, that makes total sense because John Tyler was from the South. Of course he supports slavery pre-Civil War. But there was a lot of opposition when it came to that. because John Tyler was seen as just somebody who wanted to give the Confederacy a chance at victory in the near future. And that came with extreme controversial backlash in the years ahead. So it was a success. The annexation of Texas gave us the 28th state to our union. Great job, John Tyler. It was still a slave state, so it still wasn't great, and it definitely sparked the Mexican-American War. So to put it very simply, when your greatest achievement of your presidency causes severe political tension for everyone, yeah, it was rough. But John Tyler eventually realized that he had simply no chance in the re-election bid coming up. Mostly because, he wasn't affiliated with the party anymore. He knew that the Democrats electing James K. Polk, he would probably win. And he did. And props to James K. Polk, because we're going to probably be talking about him in Season 4. James K. Polk was one of our most efficient presidents in American history because he added states to the Union, he fought the Mexican-American War, and in the process, he created a lot less tension than John Tyler. But Ty, remember, this is John Tyler's episode. So what did the end of John Tyler's legacy look like? Still not the greatest. After leaving office, Tyler remained deeply involved in Southern politics. And I'm not talking about Southern politics like where are we going to put the next fried chicken place in a small town. No, I'm talking about the Confederacy. In 1861, he joined the Provisional Confederate Congress, pretty much the United States Congress, but for the Confederacy during the Civil War. This move shocked so many people in the North. But he wouldn't last long because he died just 1 year later in 1862 at the age of 71. But because of his Confederate affiliation, Tyler was denied the traditional honors that are given to presidents at their passing normally. We know what happened when Jimmy Carter passed away. We lowered our flags and we paid our condolences. The North was not going to do that for John Tyler. So being the only presidential grave associated with a Confederate flag, John Tyler is one of the most unique and controversial figures in presidential history. Not only did he clash with Congress, he fought his own party, which made him lose party support. And he faced personal significant tragedy, whether that was the death of his first wife or William Henry Harrison, the person he was running with, passed away. John Tyler's life seemed like it never stopped. But no matter who he fought for, he remained dedicated to the vision of leadership and to the country as he saw it. His story reminds us that history is not just about the politics and the elections and if you won or if you lost, but it's about the people and their decisions. It's about the personal lives that we never hear about, and it's about the lasting consequences of their actions. John Tyler's life was so complicated. He had parties, cannon explosions, romances, age gaps, and the constant balance of politics and family and party affiliation is so debated in American history with John Tyler. But it is a reminder that leadership comes in many different forms, and that history remembers people for their complexity just as much as their policies. Tyler was very interesting to study because he's often swept under the rug as just that guy who came in when William Henry Harrison died. And even if John Tyler did not have the most notable presidency in United States history, man, is this guy still interesting to study and to learn about. And In closing, Tyler remains to be that unique and fascinating figure in American history that nobody knows about, showing that even in presidential chaos, there's some form of resilience and commitment to the country. And John Tyler's story is a combination of that bold decision-making, that personal drama, and that ambition that he had from childhood. And it continues to captivate anyone willing to look beyond the surface of John Tyler's presidency, showing us the human side of leadership that we often do not see. And that is why John Tyler is so important. Tune in next Friday as we talk about Martin Van Buren, the president that you probably only remember because of his atrocious haircut. But he's a lot more than that. Martin Van Buren's presidency was full of economic depression, difficulties, and trying to ride the wave of a successful predecessor. Will Martin Van Buren be able to reach the status quo of that guy behind him, Andrew Jackson? Or will his decisions and actions actually end up throwing him into political obscurity? Learn about that and much more next week on Presidents Unplugged. I'm Ty Svensson, and I'll see you soon. God bless. Thank you for listening to Presidents Unplugged. If you enjoy content like this, give us a follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify today to be notified that your favorite presidential podcast has released new content. Now, when do we release new content? Once a month, maybe twice a year, maybe even once a year? No. We release new content every Friday at 1 p.m. for my American enthusiasts to enjoy. Come join me on our dive into making American history the most entertaining and interesting subject to learn every single week. I'm Ty Svensson, this is Presidents Unplugged, and I'll see you soon.